Darwinism proposes the lie that life emerged by natural events, by chance, by two mechanisms, natural selection and mutation, which are random events by chance, and the species evolved to other species progressively and through transitions by chance. The reason why Darwinism is defended against so many scientific evidences is to keep atheism alive. For example, Richard Dawkins, who is the #1 evolutionist of the world, Dawkins says here, before Darwin it was difficult to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist, and Darwin made it easy to become an intellectual atheist. That is the reason why Darwinism is defended against so many scientific evidences, against the fossil evidence, against the evidences from molecular biology and the genetics. Another atheist, who is the founder of Advancement of Atheism in the United States, his name is Charles Smith. He says, evolution is atheism because it denies the existence of a creator. Basically, Darwinism is the application of the materialism onto the nature. Materialism is an old pagan religion which goes back to the time of the Greeks, ancient Greeks. However, although materialism absolutely rejects the existence of anything beyond matter, science is not obliged to accept such a dogma. Science means exploring nature and deriving conclusion from one's findings. And if these findings lead to conclusion that nature is created, science to accept this. This is the duty of a true scientist, not defending impossible scenarios by clinging to the outdated materialist dogmas of the 19th century. So basically, chance is the false god of the Darwinism. Now, if you check fundamentally, if evolution is possible by random events, by natural selection and mutation, the answer is impossible because the protein molecules, these are the basic building blocks of the living things. For example, in your body is more than 100,000 different protein molecules. They are hormones, enzymes, and they are structural proteins also. The answer is impossible. For the formation of a single protein, other proteins must exist. This is the most powerful evidence which refute Darwinism, which refute evolution. For a single protein to emerge, 100 proteins must exist. This is not enough. DNA must exist. Not enough. Mitochondria must exist, energy power stations. A complete living cell must exist to produce a single protein molecule. This is the most powerful evidence which defeats Darwinism completely, demolishes Darwinism. So this is also supported by the fossil evidence, because in the fossil evidence, the first living cell, which is a cyanobacteria, appears all of a sudden creation, 3.8 billion years ago in Australia Chert region. The first cyanobacteria, which is red-blue algae, which can do photosynthesis, appears all of a sudden. It does not appear progressively. In fact, cell cannot appear progressively because any of the organelles is missing or defective. It cannot remain alive. Therefore, the first cell on Earth was necessarily a complete cell possessing all these required functions and organelles, and this definitely means it is created, and cyanobacteria fossil confirms this fact. And they never change for 3.8 billion years. That means no evolution. There are two imaginary mechanisms of evolution: natural selection and mutation. You see over here. Natural selection holds that the living things which are more suited to the natural conditions of their habitat will succeed and produce an offspring. Those which unfit will vanish. For example, a herd of deer, if they are threatened by the predators, of course the ones which run fast will survive. However, no matter how long this process goes on, there will be only faster running deer. It will not transform deer to other species because natural selection, it doesn't have an evolutionary power. It is not capable of planning and foresight. It cannot decide what is good, what is bad for the living things. It cannot change the DNA by any means. That is the reason why neo-Darwinism has had to add mutations. Mutations are random changes, breaks or replacements in the DNA. Mutations are always harmful. There are only 1% neutral, not harmful, not useful, not beneficial, but mutations cannot generate new genetic information, brand new genes, brand new proteins, brand new organs, and brand new species is impossible genetically and molecular biology. There is only these mechanisms created by God. Replication of the DNA, nucleotide by nucleotide, letter by letter, like a photocopy, copying the DNA, and the shuffling of the genes. Shuffling of the genes is mixing up the genetic information. That generates variation. This is not evolution because new genetic information cannot be generated. From the first man on, Adam, peace be upon him, we have the same genetic information, only mixed up genes. By crossing over mechanism and by other mechanisms, and also epigenetics, which doesn't change the DNA, which only affects gene expression. These are molecular biology and genetic evidences where evolution is impossible, genetic evidence does not change, which is also supported by fossil evidence. Now, I will go into the fossils also. This is from Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin says natural selection can do nothing until favorable variations chance to occur. That's the reason why they had to add the mutations. I told you, mutations are only harmful. Okay, I will go into the fossil evidence right now. Fossils are remnants of the living things which are lived in the past. So only from the fossil evidence we can know whether evolution is possible or not. And if you look at the fossil evidence, it is asserted by the evolutionists, species evolved to other species gradually by successive minor variations over billions of years. Then evolutionists have to show us these successive minor changes in the fossilized examples, half fish, half reptile, half bird, pathological and asymmetrical forms. And these imaginary forms are called transitional forms. However, if we check the fossil evidence, we see species appear abruptly, complete and perfectly formed. For example, this is a brittle star. This is a real fossil, not illustrations like, for example, Mr. Stone or other people have shown. These are not illustrations, real fossils, 490 million years old. And if I show you the today's form, doesn't change at all, not even a little bit millimetrically the same. And we have fossils of 3.8 billion years old cyanobacteria, exactly the same. 500 million year old, 100 million year old, never changed. 400 million fossils prove the fact of sudden creation, not creation through evolution. Now, of course, if we go further, this is Richard Dawkins. He cannot answer any beneficial mutation. He was asked to give one beneficial mutation. This is the transitional forms I show you. For example, evolutionists claim starfish evolved into fish. Starfish fossils, fish fossils we have. Do we have any of these transitions? Not even a single one. All the transitional forms, so-called transitional forms, they showed were extinct species. For example, Ichthyostega, Acanthostega are extinct amphibians. Tiktaalik roseus turned out to be a forgery. A skull of alligator sinensis, similar to alligator simensis, a fish body was added, and that is a forgery. It is not a transitional form. There are no transitional forms whatsoever. 400 million fossils, and we have the creation atlas, thousands of them. No change means no evolution, of course. Now, I will go further. Actually, this is the fossil evidence which also refutes the evolution. And this is from Charles Darwin. I'm not going to read it, I don't have time, but he says there are no transitional forms. Charles Darwin says no transitional forms means no evolution, and he admitted that. If you look at today's paleontologists, very famous, everybody knows them. Niles Eldridge, he says the record jumps, and all the evidence shows that the record is real. Record jumps means species appear separately, no transitions, no evolution. And he is one of the most prominent paleontologists of the world. And Stephen Jay Gould says stasis and sudden appearance of the fossils, that means no evolution, no transitional forms. Who says that? All the prominent evolutionists of the world. And Cambrian age, 540 million years ago, 50 different animal groups. 50 different animals according to body structure, crustaceans, for example, mollusks and the other animals, 50 of them appeared all of a sudden. Only 3 of them exist before the Cambrian. 50 of them appear without any evolutionary history. That means sudden creation by God, not through evolution. So fossil evidence confirms the fact that God created all of a sudden the species separately. You see, this is the allegation of evolution. This is the real fossil evidence. Cambrian period, 50 different phylums appear all of a sudden without any history. Sudden appearance means, of course, sudden creation, not through evolution. And trilobite fossil, the eye, this is the first eye with 3,000 lenses, appear all of a sudden, not progressively. The eye appears all of a sudden as an organ. All the organs, wings and lungs, gills appear all of a sudden. In fact, half organs, they never function. They cannot function, they cannot survive. So we see the sudden evidences of sudden creation, always. Again, Charles Darwin, and he talks about the eye, and I go very fast. And these are the living fossils that you see over here, 95 million year old, flying fish, exactly the same, no change, no evolution, no change, no evolution. And also crocodile, 100 million, no change, no evolution. And even the plants, these are the winged ants. And these are real fossils you see over, not illustrations. Illustrations doesn't have any scientific value, and you cannot estimate the soft tissues based on the skeletal evidence. So illustrations doesn't have any scientific value. If you give a skeleton to 100 different artists. They do 100 different illustrations. Australopithecus is southern ape. Homo habilis is an ape with small skull, long arms, short legs, prominences to grab the branches of the trees, and stooped forward walking. And humans are humans. We have soul. We can build civilizations. We can do take the electron microscope and do our research on our bodies because we have a soul. And this fact indicated in the Quran also. In the Quran, Allah gives the evidences of sudden creation, miraculous creation. For example, the Moses throws his staff on the ground. The wood staff transforms into a snake. Is it over millions of years gradually? No. All of a sudden creation. Jesus, peace be upon him, breathes, shapes the mud like a bird, breathes into that. It transforms all of a sudden into a living bird. Is that through evolution? Of course not. The maidens in the paradise, are they created through evolution? Of course not. Okay. So why do some people try to fit this evolution nonsense into the Quran? Because they see Darwinism as a majority. They try to find a middle path. They want to be accepted by the evolutionists. They try, against the scientific evidences, they force some verses in the Quran to change them to fit into the evolution. And they try to accept this non-scientific claims of the evolution. But evolution never happened. Darwinism, which claims the origin of life by chance, is definitely refuted by all the scientific evidences. 400 million fossils and the impossibility of the proteins emerge by chance. And we know from genetics and molecular biology there is no mechanism which can generate the new genetic evidence. And all the samples given, for example, lactate intolerance or CCR5, I can explain you in detail, they all show loss of genetic information. These living beings we have shown in the laboratories, I'm a neurosurgeon, okay, they are crippled. Because of being crippled, sometimes in some environments there is some benefit. Basically, science is
3 minutes. 3 minutes. Non, mais pour l'intervention, non, pour la traduction, mais il reste 3 minutes pour la traduction.
Okay. Tout à fait. Science is anti-atheist, anti-Darwinist, anti-evolutionist. Thank you.